So Aubree, I'm so glad we're able to sit down and talk today. I want to learn all about your real estate career and how you got started.
Oh gosh. I feel like I'm kind of like a unique character in that and how I kind of fell into it on accident. I had been in the pharmaceutical research industry for 12 years.
Okay.
And I just was kind of getting over it. And it was really hard work, really great work, but not a lot of personal interaction, a lot of like in the data. And I was I kept like asking my manager, I really want to be doing something where I get to like have more personal interaction. I just kept asking for that. Yeah. And she was like, well, we can move you into this role. And it was like, still not enough. And I had a friend who worked in lending.
Okay.
And she was like, you should come work for our company. You should be a loan officer. And I was like, okay, why not? So I completely like switched gears, went into that. So I was a loan officer for 2 years.
Okay. And when was this?
So this would have been in 2012 until 2014.
Okay.
So end of 2012 to end of 2014.
Okay.
And I took to it really well. But when my son, when I was pregnant, I went on bed rest multiple times.
Okay.
I had a really rough pregnancy. And it was just like, I just couldn't work full time. And I kind of had like this extra pressure because my friend was really good at what she did. And I wanted to perform too.
Okay.
And when you can't work full time and you're on bed rest, you kind of just like, it's really hard to be in. You can't be like
half in.
You can't be half in in that industry. And so after he was born, he was premature and we didn't have childcare ready yet because it's all kind of based on when they're supposed to arrive.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was the stress of that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay home. I know this isn't full time. We can't afford to do this full time, but I'm going to stay home for 6 months, a year, as long as we can make it work financially. And during that time frame, the agent who helped us buy our house contacted me and said, hey, we're looking for a part-time person. Would you be interested? We know you worked in loans. Okay. And I was like, well, maybe,
Yeah.
And so, and it's funny because I had remembered my husband saying to me when we bought our house, he was like, have you ever thought about selling real estate?
Oh, really?
And
how many years before was that?
So that would have been in 2013 is when we bought our house.
Okay.
So I was already in the mortgage industry.
Okay.
And I was like, do you know how much they work? Was my response. And I was like, when will I have time to ride my bike? Yeah. And my husband and I met bike racing.
Okay.
So that was a huge part of my life at that time. And so I laugh now because I'm like, I don't have time to ride my bike. But basically the conversation with them was like, I was like, I think I will do this part-time 3 days a week. They got me licensed. And so I got trained up as a transaction coordinator.
Okay.
And then they wanted a full-time person. And I was like, if I'm working full-time, this is not what I'm doing.
Right.
So I then worked for another agent. I just like went walking through the office. So one day I was like, does anybody know anybody looking for somebody to work part-time?
Right.
And someone said, well, here's Sarah Armour is. I was like, I don't even know who Sarah is. And so I reached out to her and she's like, I think this would be great. So I worked for her for almost 2 years, like a year and 9 months maybe-ish.
Okay.
And she really trained me up.
Really?
Where it was getting to the point where like I was going to inspections. I was writing resolutions. I was writing contracts. I mean, obviously not out of the gate, but at one point, I mean, she didn't even check the contract. She didn't check any. She was like, you got this.
Full trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I started bringing in referrals because people knew I was in the industry and I was licensed.
Okay.
And all of a sudden it was kind of like, maybe I should be selling real estate.
Right.
And so I just kind of like fell into it.
Okay.
And so I call like my full-time starting July of 2018.
Okay.
Even though I've been licensed since November 2015.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the fear of having to work so much, is that now a reality or is there some life balance?
I feel like I've gotten better.
Okay.
As time goes by on the life balance.
Mm-hmm.
I now refer out some business.
Okay.
Not a ton, but like I got a call just the other day from a previous client who had a friend moving here who wants to be way up north and asked if I knew the area. And I was like, I've sold up north, but that's just not my specialty area. You know,
Sure.
I live in Johnson County and I'm not going to be able to be there in 10 minutes if you want to see something immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those situations where I was like, I think she's going to be better served working with an agent who lives in that area. So I called a previous co-op of mine who lives and works and specializes in the Northland. And she was like, yes. And so that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, that allows me to have a little better work-life balance and be like, okay, so now I'm not leaving my area, which I work. The office is 3 minutes from my house. So I'm pretty spoiled.
Yeah.
And I sell the majority of the real estate I sell is right within that little area.
Okay.
But if I was going to be running up there, I may not be home until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night if I'm doing a showing after someone's work hours. And while I'm willing to do that, sometimes I don't want to do that all the time.
Right.
And it allows me to be a better mom, be a better wife, and allows me to concentrate on the business that's more close in and that I can concentrate on that and be a better agent for those clients.
Absolutely. I think that's brilliant that, you're not trying to take all the business, just being the best in the business in the area that you serve.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like since you started, you were a part of KW in Kansas City. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So
back when we were key partners.
Yep. From the beginning.
Yeah.
So what impact has our office made on your business and your success as an agent?
A lot. It's funny when I was trying to decide what to do, when I was coming up on should I be a real estate agent? Should I continue kind of in a support role? Should I do this full time? Should I go out on my own? Should I join a team? I was really unsure of myself. And it's a very scary prospect to be like, I'm going to do this full time. There is, no base. Because when I worked for other agents, I mean, I had a little bit of cushion.
Sure.
It wasn't like it was a big salary, but
something.
Something.
Yeah.
I had guaranteed something because I had hours. I was hourly.
Yeah.
Plus, I was bonusing on some stuff. So it was a big decision. And I remember sitting down and I sat down with David Conderman and I was like, well, here are my options. And he was like, Aubree, I really think you would be great as a single agent. You'll be fine. I don't really think you need all the support that you feel like you need.
Okay.
He gave me so much confidence in that moment to be like, I think you're going to be awesome. I still chose to go the team route out of the gate.
Okay.
And I'm glad I did.
Sure.
I mean, that felt safer to me.
Okay.
And as somebody who, even when I was a loan officer, I was not a full commission.
Really?
I was a base salary plus commission. Now my commissions were far less than if I had been full commission, but that was a safety net for me. And when I had worked, I'd worked in the corporate world as, a salaried employee, that was very scary. And I think back of I don't think I ever would have jumped into real estate or in any capacity of any business as a full commissioned person if I had not been married and had at least knowing my husband had
something
coming in no matter what.
Yeah.
Because that is very scary.
Yeah.
And I commend those agents that jump into business and don't have that. And they don't have a spouse who, has the additional income coming in. That is scary. And so seriously, kudos to them. I do think sometimes you can't put your back against the wall.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you're coming from a place of lack and chasing after things that maybe you wouldn't normally chase after.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, I even think back early in my career. I mean, I was taking any business that was coming in. I mean, because you don't want to turn it down.
Right.
And because you just don't know where the next piece of business is going to come from. And so you just take it and you run with it and you just work your butt off. I'm really thankful that I've grown my business to the point where I can do the things like the referrals and so forth. But it's a feast or famine industry. But I do think that if you have the right mindset and you put in the time and put in the effort, you can be successful.
Absolutely. And to your point, you said the time and mindset. And it's so easy to get caught up with what we see on social media or reality TV of agents being successful. But we don't see all the labor, the hard work, the grind that they go through, or the years where they're not making anything. Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone brand new or someone just thinking about starting a career in real estate?
I would give the same advice that I've said over and over again, which is find an agent who is willing to mentor you.
Okay.
And that becomes because I was mentored.
Yeah.
And I'm, I was lucky because I had the lending background, of course.
Sure.
So that gave me a definite in from the get-go. But I feel so thankful and grateful that I had the mentorship and the experience I had, because when I took on my very first client, my very first sale on my own, it was just easy. And to this day, I still don't know that they know. I still don't think that they know that they were my very first actual clients. They were like, you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
And so if you can get an agent who is willing to mentor you and help you through that, maybe throw you a couple bones here and there.
Okay.
It can I think it can really help you grow. And also, like, early on too, I was like reaching out to the single agents in the office going, hey, you're going to be out of town over the holidays. I'll show for you. I'll show for you. I'll show for you. And so that helped subsidize some income when I just was only selling a little bit. There was a little extra there.
That's such a great idea. So if you are an agent who doesn't have a spouse supporting your, the only one contributing to your income, a great way to supplement and still be in the real estate space, sounds like, would be to reach out to agents to see if you could help show for them.
Yeah. And I've done that with a handful of newer agents. I've kind of taken them in and I've been like, hey, are you interested in doing this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, you are going to have to come to some showings with me first. Sure. I'm not just going to send you out with my clients. and so I use it as an opportunity to train them and help them in the process, because I feel like I want to give that back because I had that.
Yeah.
But also it's helpful for me, and it's a win-win for both parties.
Yep. Which is something that we teach at Keller, is win-win for all.
Yeah.
So,
win-win or no deal. Yeah,
absolutely. So tell me about what your business looks like now, because you're in a unique team atmosphere.
Yeah. So there's 3 of us, and it kind of all came about originally. So it's myself, Bill Gary, and Randy Pereira. And Bill and I created a relationship back when I was a newer agent.
Okay.
And he was one of the agents I was showing for.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yes. And it actually got to the point where he actually had a client who was like, be like, oh, is Aubree going to show us?
That's funny.
And so, and they come to our client events, and I'm always like, hey, Karen, they remember me. And so it was kind of like, we just developed a relationship, and he actually threw me a couple of sign calls.
Okay.
And so, because he was like, hey, I'm not in town. You want to handle these? And I was like, great. He didn't ask for a referral, but I sent him one, because I think that's like the kind thing to do.
Yeah.
So that bridged a gap of somebody that I hardly knew.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, here we were becoming colleagues. Randy Pereira was in kind of a similar situation of being like, hey, I kind of want to join a team, but I don't really want like the full team thing. I've been on my own forever. I just don't know I want everything. So the 3 of us basically started talking, and we're like, how could we form a collaboration that where we can support each other? We keep all of our own commissions.
Okay.
We don't share those
with the team.
With the team. So I know that's unique in compared to many teams who have like a rainmaker. And we just share expenses.
Brilliant.
So like we share an office space, which I'm honestly there the most. That's just, I like to be in the office.
Okay. You like the social aspect of it, yeah.
And I think also because I worked corporate for so long, it was just like ingrained in me that you go to the office every day from 9 to 5.
That's how it works when you work. Yeah.
And then we do client events together. We share in the cost of client events. We have a website. We share in the cost of the website. We're all really reasonable people. So we're not buying things we don't need. We're not, if I want to do, something that is, that has like my branding on it, I'm going to pay for that myself.
Okay.
And if Bill wants to do his own branding, he can do that himself. We show for each other when we're on vacation. And now granted, we're not checking with each other and be like, are you out of town that weekend?
Sure.
I can't take my vacation because you're out of town too. We're not doing that.
Okay.
But if we know ahead of time something's coming up, I mean, Randy went to Europe last year for 10 days and Bill and I handled it. I took the listings, Bill took the buyers. We just split it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we did our best not to contact her as much as we could, but there was just a couple of times we just had to because we were in a multiple offer situation on a listing, and I was like, okay, well, I really feel like I need to talk to you about this. But we cover for each other. Bill's doing a broker, like an invite on a tour next week on a pretty big listing of his.
Yeah.
And we need multiple bodies there. So we're all going to be there to greet the agents and so forth. So
you're expecting a lot of traffic.
And it's in a condo. And so we have to have somebody at the door.
Gotcha.
We have to go downstairs to the, to the parking. It's just a little bit extra. We need some extra, hands on deck.
Okay.
And so that's the kind of thing we help do for each other. And it's really nice when you're in kind of a sticky situation. That's not really a broker question, but it's more of like, if you were in this scenario of negotiating, how would you handle this?
Sure. Like mastermind, but
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we mastermind all the time. And if we're like a little unsure, we call each other. Or if there is a listing that one of us is writing an offer on and we know that somebody else on the team is really good friends with that listing agent.
Okay.
We'll make the call.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny. There was actually one day that Randy was like, I know you're really good friends with him. Will you call him? And I was like, sure. And I called him and he called me right back. And she had called him like hours prior. And
she was like, funny.
She was like, are you serious? And he was like, I just want you to know, you were the first person I called back. And I was like, she knows.
Yeah.
She's aware, and he's like, so you're really just calling for her? I was like, yes, I am, because she's really hoping to get this, and I know you have a lot of offers.
And did she get it?
I actually don't remember I feel like maybe they didn't end up offering because it was just getting too nutty.
Gotcha.
But
which is fair.
Yes. But like, that's the kind of stuff we're going to do to help each other in those scenarios to run a more efficient business and run a better business.
It's so cool. So how did you all come up with that idea?
Truthfully, we were getting recruited by another brokerage.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. And all decided to stay. And
so the three of us and one other. So we're four. So the four of us were getting recruited, and one other went, and the three of us stayed.
Okay.
And so we just kind of came and said, well, like, what if we just did what they were suggesting we do here? Why not?
Right.
And so that's what we did. And so it's been kind of a slow process of coming out of like us all having our own branding and not wanting to give up some of the individuality. And it's not that because we don't love each other, but it's just we're not throwing everything at because we're paying somebody else.
Right.
Part of our commissions to do something. We're like, no, we don't really need new signs yet, so we won't deal with it yet.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so cool and super innovative for you to all come together and think of a totally different and unique way to structure what we've always thought of as a team.
Yeah.
So really, really cool model that you've got. What are you most excited about for the next year in real estate?
Ooh. Well, we keep saying we'd like to add a fourth person to our team.
Okay.
And that's for a multitude of reasons. As we're all longer in business, we know that eventually, we're going to start getting closer to retirement. And so continuously kind of feeding into that's going to be important.
Right.
Because when someone goes, we're going to want to give our business to somebody.
Right.
Individually, something I've really worked toward, towards the last couple of years, and I think comes naturally the longer you're in business, is moving more into luxury market. And that's something I have done more in the last year and a half-ish, has really been a much bigger part of my business. And so that's a big,
exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
It is. And so I'm really enjoying that aspect, because there's a learning curve with that. There's a learning curve with everything.
Sure.
And it should be in everything you do, but in our business, there's always a learning curve, and you want to best serve your clients. And so jumping into that and learning more, and, again, this comes back to like our team, Bill and Randy have both been in the business longer than I have, and they've done more luxury than I have. And so that's great where I can be like, hey, what about this? How do you handle this? What do you do in those situations? And then of course they're coming to me as well. I mean, it's like, that's the collaboration part. So that's exciting for me personally, but as a team, I know us building from there and continually to, boost our team volume is really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have really done a great job, and it's so great to see. I know when you first started at the office, in more of the admin role, to see you grow into a really top producing agent for the office today. If you could give someone brand new, maybe a piece of advice that you wish you had been given when you first started, what would that be?
I wouldn't say not to be like a Debbie Downer. I'm a realist.
Yeah. You're not going to sugarcoat things.
I
You're
don't
tell like it is.
things.
Yeah.
And I think like people appreciate that. I mean, at least my clients appreciate that about me, I feel like, is that nothing's given to you in this business. And if you can't accept that, then you're going to have to move on. Yeah. Like you've got to be able to look at and be like, when I get my license, there's a chance I may not make $1 for 6 months.
Yeah.
And even if you get your first client out of the gate on day one, which is unlikely.
Right.
But let's say you do. They're not going to find a house out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be 2, 4, 6 weeks. Then it's going to be 4, 6 weeks before closing. So you're looking at, in a best case scenario, 2 months before you get your first paycheck. And that's like literally best case scenario.
Yeah. And during that time, you're not only working with that client, but you still have to be working to build your business and work with other clients.
Yeah. And when you're brand new, it feels like that client is taking all of your energy and all of your time.
Because you're learning.
And because you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this wrong. How do I handle this? And so forth, which is great because you want to do it well. Right. Yeah. But also you learn to balance that as you go.
Sure.
But that is just, I think that's really it, is being realistic about the expectations of what it takes to truly get to where you need to be. And if someone asks me like, what will it take to be a successful agent? I'm like, well, success is defined in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. What one person defines as success is different for someone else. But if, someone's like, well, I'm thinking about leaving my corporate job to do this, I'm going to like probably push back and say, well, what is your salary at your corporate job? And they'll tell me, and I'll like kind of quickly do some quick math. And I'm like, well, you're probably going to have to sell 12, 15, 16 houses a year to equal that at an average price point type of situation. Like that's the truth of it. And that could be pretty hard coming out of the gate. That may take 2 years before someone can get to that with consistent work.
And what's so great about our office, it's so unique, is that we do have that launch program for new agents to train and learn and have the mentors, which was important to you, and the coaches, and that hands-on experience. So you're not just left to the wild to figure it out.
I
which
don't
is
even
wild to me.
It is wild. I mean, I remember selling a house. I was a listing agent on it. It's probably been 2 years ago now. And I get 5 or 6 offers, and I get this one offer, and it's the best offer. And I'm like reading through it. I'm like, oh my gosh, there are so many errors on this offer. And so I reach back out to the agent, and immediately I go look up this agent, and I'm like, I don't think they've had any sales. Nothing is showing in MLS.
Yeah.
And I am like, hey, is this your first offer? And she's like, yeah. And I said, do you have anybody helping you? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So I'm going to rewrite this from scratch.
That was so kind of you, which speaks volumes to the agents in our office also.
Because I'm like, this has so many errors on it that it's just going to be a nightmare trying to clean up in an amendment.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're on the same page that this is your intention, which, you know, I understood the intention of everything. But we clarified everything. And then I like basically helped her through every step of the way.
Wow.
And she was like, thank you so much. And I'm like, we've all been new before.
Absolutely.
We've all been a new agent. We've all written our first offer and
have that nerve and the butterflies and just how scary it is.
Yes. Yeah. But not everybody gets somebody to help them in the mentorship, which I would say twofold is one, if you're an experienced agent, be kind to those new agents.
So true. So true.
Like, this is a small industry. We run across each other again and again and again.
Yeah.
Like, you want to play nice on the playground. Mm-hmm. But secondly, like, it's also kind of comes back to like being able to be at an office that has support, I think is really important, because you're not always going to run across a nice co-op who's going to help you through that process.
So true. So true.
And next thing you know, you may have made a huge error. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think it would be more likely a huge error would happen if you were the listing agent versus the buyer agent.
Right.
I think that's probably more likely. But you know, you never know what you could accidentally agree to because you didn't write the offer as intended.
Right.
I mean, that's really scary.
Yeah. These are legal contracts.
These are legal contracts, legally binding contracts.
Yeah.
So, you know, having that mentorship, I think, is really important. And I see like our launch program at our office, you know, who some of the coaches are and who's working with who. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, thank goodness.
Yeah. A lot of our agents, you can't tell when they write their offers that they're new, because we give so much coaching and guidance and help for them and support, because we don't want them to be that agent on the other side, you know, having to learn from someone they might be co-oping with.
Yeah, that might be taking advantage of them.
Yeah, exactly. Not everybody's as nice as you.
I mean, like in that situation, there was like no taking advantage of anyway, but like in which that's not my nature, but but somebody could have. Somebody could have.
Yeah. Well, thank you for helping that agent, and thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you.